We're at the close of 2023, and the game that made the absolute biggest splash of the year, Lorcana, has seen some absolutely major price shifts and price drops over the past couple of weeks. And you might think that's a bad thing, but I'm here to tell you that that is the best case scenario for this game. Let me explain. So for those that haven't kept up or followed along, Disney Lorcana released to a cavalcade of praise and desirability this year, and product was, well, quite frankly, scarce. It was hard to get product. The print run of the first set and the second set, to their credit, were both far lower than the demand entailed. And that was both a good and a bad thing for the game. More a bad than a good. I will say it that way. I will not sugarcoat it. It is not good for a game to not be able to service the needs or the wants of the consumer that want to play it. And what ended up happening at the release of this game is that this box right here, the Disney Lorcana first chapter product, was incredibly expensive, exceedingly so. It was nearly $400 to pick up a box of this product. Now, of course, if you're looking at this and saying, why would you buy boxed product? You certainly have an argument. Singles is always like cheaper than picking up boxed product, but boxed product is kind of where, you know, card games live. It's the bread and butter of card games. And to be honest, this was far too expensive to sustain massive player bases or to really build a player base. It was too hard to purchase and too high to purchase these products. And the worst part about it was, when this sort of thing happens, it is a paradise for scalpers, for people that want to go out there, find a bunch of the product, buy it completely off the shelves, and then not use it, not open it, not collect it, not play it, but turn around and try to sell it for free tendies. And it's not the first game that's ever been done with, and it's certainly not going to be the last, but it was a very notable one this year. And as you can see, it sold, and it moved. Unfortunately, it was moving at such high prices that it made it exceedingly difficult to sort of get people into the game in any real way in a very large population. But as you see recently, that price has not stayed there, and it has started to plummet. And this is a scary looking graph if you want the value of your cards and your, I guess, investment, if you want that value to stay high. If you buy high, maybe I bought when this was $364 and I want this value to stay there for years to come. Well, unfortunately for you, that is not going to be the case, because as was said by Ravensburger, the producer of Disney Lorcana, this set and future sets are going to have a very high increased print run, and they are going to continue to pump this out so that people can get their hands on it. And if you like that or not, I don't know, let me know in a comment below, but I personally think it is beautiful. It is perfect. It's exactly what they should do, because this game is worth playing, not just worth scalping. But you may also be looking at this graph and saying, okay, is this a good trend? Is this downward trend? Like, where's the bottom? Does it keep going down? And at what point do you flood the market with supply and people don't actually care about the product anymore? We've seen several games do that. And if you look at over here in the Rise of the Floodborn, if we look at this, the same thing was happening. When it released, it hovered around that almost $400 a box. This is the second set that just released in September, kind of October-ish area, right? I guess in September is where it's marked. And it hovered really high, but again, it plummeted. It started plummeting, and it's continuing to go down. The arrow is pointing downward, which, again, I'm going to say it, is very good in my opinion for anyone that wants to actually get their hands on cards and play the game. You can now buy boxes at, unfortunately, still $186, but the downward trend is on. And again, I'm saying this, in my opinion, is a very good thing, because you cannot expect for this price range that I'm highlighting right here to ever be equitable for a large scale trading card game. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you say about Magic the Gathering having price ranges of this. Those are far different circumstances. A new game can't price themselves out of the market simply because the supply does not meet the demand. And, well, like it or not, this has insane demand. And it doesn't just stop there. If you're thinking, okay, well, this is all great, well and good if you are a collector. This is clearly a collector's game. if you wanted to buy singles just for collection, there's really no point. You're wrong 100% because there is definitely a player base, and you can see that based on cards that have been moving and the movement that those cards have produced. This card, Lilo, Making a Wish, is an insanely good card. It has been and it continues to be insanely good. But sitting at a $14 price tag for a rare felt quite painful to purchase, especially if you were playing within that first set only meta. It was painful to pay $14 at the start and $20 for the foils. Now it came down steadily and continued to come down steadily as more people opened, and the card's sitting at that $241. Now you may not enjoy that personally, and I did not buy a ton of Lilos. I did buy a few to finish out my playset, and I paid around, like I guess it was around here, somewhere around there. I paid like the $8 to $10 for like 1 to 2 Lilos. Yeah, it feels bad to spend $10 and have the card be valued at $2. I understand that, but at the same time, I can tell someone that is considering picking up the game to actually play it that they can go buy a rare card, which is a mid-rarity in this game. It's a middle-of-the-road rarity, that they can buy this 1-drop that is a super solid card, that is like a glue linchpin piece for many decks. In fact, my favorite deck in the game, this is one of the linchpin pieces to start a really strong early game. They can pick that up for $2.41 right now. That's a really good thing. And players are doing it. If you look at the sales of this card, and again, I'm just going to point this out, this is in the emergent meta of the second set, where cards like this start to move and shake and change based on what these new decks are doing. So as proof of that, let's take a look at some cards. First of all, Lilo. This card has been a linchpin sort of gameplay piece for the game and within the game since it released. This has been one of the best cards in the game. Why? Well, it's a 1-drop. You can play it on 1 and it gets you 2 points. It quests for 2 lore and you try to get to 20 to win the game. And when the supply was exceedingly low, and this card being a mid-tier rarity, you can have 4 of them in your deck. When the price was sitting at $14 per, just these 4 cards makes up a lot of money to play out one of those linchpin cards. And as supply has increased and more people have opened and started playing the game, it has settled at a non-foil version of a just very comfortable $2.38 for a mid-tier rarity. This is, again, it goes common, uncommon, rare, and then you keep going, super rare and legendary as you go up. And then there's the enchanted rare, which is sort of like that collector's piece that sits at very high prices. But this sort of very important game piece should be affordable and easy to get your hands on so players can play the game. And now that it's sitting at a foil of $4.55 or a non-foil of $2.38, yeah, people are buying and buying, and I have to load more sales to just get to yesterday. And buying, I'm still going. There it is. That is how many people have picked up just the copies of this card, and most of them non-foil, some of them even lightly played, which is pretty insane when you think about it. And we can keep loading, and we're still into yesterday. We haven't gone past there it is. Now we are officially 2 days ago on sale, starting right there. That's how many of these game pieces that are very good have sold at this low price margin. But you might be like, okay, well, if the game is tanking and the prices of the boxes are tanking, of course, all of these cards are going to have a downward turn. Why is that a good thing? Okay, well, let's talk about another set 1 card. Maleficent is another card that immediately when it came out saw some decent play in one of the best control decks in the game. And this is a legendary. This is like the highest rarity that you can get. And yes, you can still play 4 of them in your deck. And they were sitting at the excessive price of $39, $38.99 for a non-foil. But more people opened, and some other decks started to come to the fore and pushed that deck down. And then the new set came, and people thought, okay, well, this card is moving out of the zeitgeist, if you will, out of the meta. But then look, it came back up because the deck that had it started getting good again. People started to play that deck, but it spiked because of a play spike. This spike doesn't happen when you release more product into the market. This spike happens when the deck gets better and people realize that this card is worth it, we should probably pick it up. And funnily enough, all of these like playable cards are shifting and changing like price-wise based on how well they do in tournaments. And that brings me to the next point. And again, we could talk about this and how Rise of the Floodborn, the second set, is also changing that. But the effect of this set has changed the prices of these cards because people are playing the game. And it's not just like in local game store. There are straight up big tournaments that are starting to come to fruition at the end of this year and are going to, in my opinion, see heavy emphasis put on them in 2024. Let me prove it to you, because here, if you look, this is the Lorcana Play Network, and it is essentially it's a business that has formed, a tournament sort of organizer that has formed, I think is the best way to say it, to provide players an opportunity to play this game in paper and also play online. So for example, there's a tournament coming up. And this is funny because they actually reached out to talk to me about this tournament because of the craziness that is happening. There's a tournament coming up tomorrow that is played on the computer, that is played via Pixelborn. If you don't know, Pixelborn is a fan-made online client. And they are literally playing a like multi-round, I believe it's a Swiss-style tournament format, best of 3, which is the format of the game. And you are playing in this for actual prizing, and currently they have had to increase the capacity at least 3 times because last they told me this was in the 500s. Like 500 or so people are signed up to play an online tournament via a fan-made online client. And if you're like, okay, well, that's online. Sure, that's easy to get people together for. There have been circuits that have been run by LGSs with 1K prize points just around the US that are firing, streaming. You can watch them on YouTube and are continuing to put out content. Because here, let me just pull it up. Star City Games puts on a circuit and they just run these like conventions around the country, sort of around the clock. Like for example, SCGCon Cincinnati, SCGCon Hartford are coming up. As you can see, lots of flesh and blood that SCG is putting out there, putting on the field. But if you also notice, Lorcana is showing up at all of these events. Every SCGCon now has a casual Lorcana tournament running alongside of Magic the Gathering, all really Commander stuff, a lot of Commander stuff, running alongside Flesh and Blood, Armory stuff, Battle Hardened, like this stuff we talk about all the time on the channel. And there it is. They are running like just constructed Swiss rounds, 930 fire, $50, and then actual prize support. That's pretty cool. And it doesn't, again, end here because there is a tournament that's going down. If you wanted to, by the way, if you want to go sign up for this one, it's a 2K for SCGCon Cincinnati. There's a tournament going down in Houston in February that I'm actively considering going and playing in. The game is actually playable. People are playing it. Decks are constructed and run out there on a weekly basis. And it's all because of these prices becoming more approachable for actual players and lovers of the game. So if you're sitting and wondering about the downturn that Lorcana is showing from a market perspective, I don't think you need to worry too terribly much. Now, I guess the real question, and tell me what you think about this in a comment below, is where does it end? At what point do we hit sort of that downward turn that it goes too far? Is there a point that Lorcana can actually oversupply the market? Yes, there is. And like surpass demand? Yes, there is. But the question is, are we there yet? I don't think we're there, and I don't think we're remotely close either. Let me know what you think about Lorcana in a comment below. I am very, what is the term? Bullish? Yeah, I guess I'm bullish on this. I don't speak about finances much. I look at it from a player perspective, but I will say this. I think downward price turns are very good when your game started off being far too expensive because scalpers were buying it up. And now we've met that problem head on, and we actually can get hands-on cards, get a collection together, and meet at the local game store to throw cards. That is a very, very good thing. If you enjoy this type of video, try to make that number go slightly higher because upward numbers are cool as long as they're not box prices. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.